Okay, well, thank you for joining me for another iTWire video with top Australian and international executives. On my right, I have Basil O'Reilly. He's the CEO of Logicalis Australia. And on my left, I have Andrew Thomas, the CEO of Thomas Duryea Consulting. Hope I pronounced that correctly. You can tell me if I haven't or not. And that's the company that Logicalis acquired last December. Welcome both to the program.
Thank you. Thanks.
So probably start with you, Basil. If you could just give us the short version of what Logicalis is and does, and a little bit about your tech history over the past few years.
So Logicalis is a $2 billion company based out of the UK. We operate in about 25 countries around the world and mainly focus on network and security. So the company was probably started about 20 years ago out of South Africa by a guy called Jens Montana. And really we've been growing for the last 20 years by acquisitions. So we entered Australia by acquiring a company called Netstar, and we continue to grow through acquisitions.
And just some highlights from your glittering tech career?
I started out in Ireland as a hardware engineer, and I moved to the UK, worked for Hewlett Packard. Then I moved to the US, worked for Hewlett Packard. And came to Australia to work for Hewlett Packard. And so it was really grew up in the IT industry working for HP.
Sure.
And then broke out into various different companies, and then decided for some reason I wanted to be a CEO.
Yeah.
And then decided I wanted to be a CEO for the second time, ended up in this job.
Right, excellent. Well, a lot of milestones there. And Andrew, a little bit about Thomas Duryea and the journey you've been through.
Sure. We started TD back in 2000, so we turned 16 in January, just gone. As we passed that financial year, we were doing about $75 million before we were acquired. Some of the services that we offer start out with consulting and advisory and really trying to help our customer organisations with their strategy and the longer term roadmap. And then we work right through into all the transformation projects that we do with them, and then underpinning all of that with managed services and cloud services.
And so just the short version of some of your tech highlights in your journey to becoming the CEO.
Started the business out of university, so there hasn't been a lot of other experience except the 16 years with TD and along with the uni mates that I started the business with. We started, as most do, in the garage, very simply back in 2000 and gradually built it up. I think, one of our proudest, highlights early on was that we never had a sales team, and it was all about just building relationships with customers, and that early culture is what's evolved to now. But just being able to go out and only be as good as our last job and be referred to the next job, and I think that's where the culture's kind of evolved to this day.
Sure, and I mean one of the other famous companies out there is Atlassian, and they famously don't have a sales team either. So clearly they copied you and have done very well. and what's the short version of the story of the merger? I know that normally mergers are two companies of similar sort of size, similar skills, and a lot of people get wiped out. But in this case, it's a different story. Just please share it with us in brief.
Really, what we were looking for was a company with complementary skills. So we weren't looking to scale our network and security business.
You were trying to add more things that you didn't have.
Really to become strategically relevant to customers. So we wanted to be able to offer consulting and advisory, technology transformation, desktop service desk, data center, as well as our traditional business. So we basically came together and everybody had pretty much stayed doing what they were doing in both companies because it's complementary.
Sure. And any comments from you?
Oh, I think, we, as I mentioned earlier, we were approached by a lot of different organisations to join, and having spent.
And this was the first right fit?
This was the fit. For us, we've built this company on culture, and we're only as good as the last job, and our people are everything to us, and our customers recognise us for that. So we wanted to fit in with an organisation that shared those values.
Sure. Now behind you, there's a slogan that says building IT strategy, bridging IT strategy and IT operations. And that was the theme of today's event. And it's pretty much what you've just been saying. You're bringing these two normally separate organisations together into one, and that's part of your unique secret sauce that nobody else in Australia has, and it's part of your journey to becoming this most admired IT company by 2020. So do you want to add anything else? I mean, I know people can watch the longer video and it's all there, but anything else to sort of just really highlight that slogan, that bridging those strategy and operations together?
Sure. Look, I think we've evolved our company, and we come from a very solution-centric background. A lot of what we've been doing in the last 16 years is very much around coming in, transforming an organisation. say 5 years ago, we started to get asked a lot about direction and more than just how does this project help my organisation, but what am I doing with my landscape? What does the future hold for me, and what decisions are key in how I transform and where I'm going? So out of that, we started to build this consulting and advisory practice, which has become a real headline for us, and it does give us a uniqueness in the market. To be able to sit beside a CIO, essentially shoulder to shoulder, look forward through the next 3 years and work with them on their challenges, and then bring behind that all the transformation projects that of course have to come.
Sure. And any comments from you, Basil?
Yeah, I think the key differentiator for us, as Andrew said, is really helping people to define their IT strategy, their architecture and their roadmaps, but also not leaving it at that. A lot of people get consultants in, they're left with a pile of documentation, and that's it.
Yeah, then figure it out yourself, sort of thing.
Yeah, whereas we can come in and produce a documentation, the strategy, but then produce a program of work to say, here's how we're going to help you get it done.
Sure, and it doesn't matter who answers, but just in a nutshell, what's the platforms that you work on? I mean, presumably it's Microsoft. I mean, I know the answer because I was at the presentation, but just for the people watching.
So we started the desktop, and we like to talk about the idea of transformation of the desktop, zero-touch desktop, automating the endpoint, if you like, for users, and we work from there through mobility. Do a lot of work with Citrix, partnering with them around, and especially in healthcare, where we're talking about tap on and tap off, and making it easier for workflow inside these organisations, and especially hospitals. And then we move right back into the data centre, where we're talking about storage, virtualisation, backup, archive, and dedupe, and we're partnering with organisations like Dell and like EMC and Cisco and that space.
Yeah. So all the major players and
all of the major players.
Now you have a joint customer that was talking today. Can you just tell us about some of the other customers? If you can't speak specific customer names and sort of the industries, and then tell us about this new joint customer that you've been both working on and now working on together because you're now one team.
Sure. Yeah. So some of the work that we're doing at the moment, and this customer that we're talking about today, we were fortunate enough to be invited to help them with their roadmap, and in fact we were writing a global strategy for them. So we're right in there understanding exactly what their challenges are, and from that we were able to feed that through into the different practices. And now as we come together, Thomas Duryea side, Logicalis side, we've never had that capability around networking. So we're doing Windows transformation at the front end, and we're able to bolt that incredible capability that Logicalis bring to do all of the networking that's been missing from our strategy over the last 16 years. So this was a great example of that.
Sure. Any comments from you, Basil?
Yeah, I think another good example is Melbourne Airport. And so Melbourne Airport came to us, and they had two business issues, one around backup, the other around DR.
Disaster recovery.
Yeah, and we couldn't fulfill both of those for them. However, when we got together with TD, they had disaster recovery as a service. We had backup as a service, so we're able to come up with a joint solution for Melbourne Airport, and we won that deal, and we're able to, it's a good example. We could not have fulfilled that without having the combined capabilities.
Sure, and so I mean you joined together in December, so it's been the last 6 months, and you've obviously been able to see the fruits of that collaboration work together. You mentioned, Andrew, breaking records after records.
And it's, when we announced it, you can't sugarcoat an announcement that goes out to market. It'll be received how it's received, and we think about the different, I guess, people listening to that announcement. It's our staff first of all, it's our customers, most importantly, and it's all of our vendor partners, and it was just received so well in market, and we started out 1st of December with the announcement, and the sales in December were absolutely off the charts. So it just showed to us that all of our staff heard the announcement, back to work, off they go, and customers have just come straight on board and trusted the new direction of the organisation, which is fantastic for us to see.
Great to hear. Any comments on tech trends that we'll see throughout the rest of the year and then throughout the rest of the decade?
Look,
I mean, you mentioned cloud and hybrid cloud, and it's probably Internet of Things, and all sorts of things.
One of the things we love doing, right? We love to take the technology and make it relevant to business, because if we're just going in and showing a shiny piece of technology, it sort of sits in the back corner. It doesn't mean as much to the end users.
You've got to have buy-in, and you've got to have customer love, so that they're using it and they're advocating for you to their own workers and to their their own partners.
That's where I mentioned health. We're able to come into a lot of these health organisations now and talk to not just IT, but talk to, say, chief of surgery, and say, how can we help you with the way your process flow happens, and tap off, tap on, tap off. Where it might have been traditionally Citrix, simple Citrix solution now becomes a way that they can operate more seamlessly through the hospital. And that's great for our engineers and for us to be able to get a solution up like that where it has end value to everyone within the hospital. It gives much more pride to, I guess, to
And Basil, any trends catching your eye besides successful mergers and acquisitions?
I would say one of the interesting areas is aged care.
Yeah. Something affecting, because it's going to affect us all.
So aged care is booming, and the cost of healthcare and aged care is becoming a big problem for Australia.
Yeah.
And the amount of people we're having are going to be generating income tax dollars is dramatically reducing. So we're seeing a lot of really innovative technology in aged care to try and reduce the cost and also to give a better outcome for people. But they're having to be innovative in aged care because they don't have the dollars to be able to do what they need to do. So they're really on the front line. They're looking at things like robots. So they're giving people, so there's 2,000 robots being trialled in Victoria. They're in the household with somebody, and the robot's there as company, doing Sudoku with the person and reminding them to take their blood pressure pills, etc.
Incredible.
So there's a whole lot of stuff in aged care that is right out there in order to be able to solve this problem for the country.
I mean, when you have robots, that's a managed IT service, right? You've got to look after them with direct customer interaction. Now, as we get to the end of the interview, I always like to change gears a little bit and just ask if you could both individually share some of the best advice or the best piece of advice you felt you've ever received that's helped you to get to where you are today. So I'm not sure who wants to start first, but go for it.
Probably the best advice I ever got was not to take myself too seriously. So
unlike David Campese, right? That's from people who've got to watch the other video to get the reference to that with Peter Fitzsimons.
At different stages of your career, you kind of get very focused on your career and you're striving to do stuff, etc. And you tend to take yourself a little bit too seriously.
Sure.
And it kind of takes somebody who come along who's a bit wiser than you and a bit older to go, you're taking yourself a bit too seriously here, and so chill out. So I learned to do that probably about 20 years ago.
Well, that's excellent advice. And Andrew, how about you?
Oh, for me, it was probably coming from my folks. And it was more around, as simple as it sort of sounds, just hard work and determination.
Sure.
Perhaps I wasn't blessed over the years with the highest IQ, but if I followed that advice and I just
well, it sounds like you did, because if you started the business out of your garage and you're the CEO and they've undergone a successful merger with another company, then sounds like that advice paid off.
Just get up and do it every day.
So are there any final messages from either of you or both of you for iTWire viewers and readers and for your current and future customers?
I would say for current customers, thank you for sticking with us through the last 12 months of the acquisition, and that for future customers, it's going to be an exciting 12 months because we've got a lot more to offer.
Sure. And Andrew?
I simply echo Basil's sentiments. Thanks to our customers for 16 years of support, and it only strengthens from here, and same to our staff. Obviously our people are who we are, so just a huge thanks out to those guys as well.
With that goal of wanting to be the most admired IT company by 2020, it sounds like the best is still yet to come, and it's fabulous to see some genuine excitement from the CEOs, and you can see the real passion there. So I wish you the best of success and hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Cheers.